The Statistician-General, Mr. Risenga Maluleke, will deliver the presentation. To assist him to take your questions at the end of the presentation, Project Director, Mr. Itani Makwebo, DDG, Joe DBA, responsible for economic statistics, SG. I think we're ready for the presentation.
Hello, Mama.
Thank you, Felicia, and again, good morning, members of the media. I have seen our friend and colleague, Mr. Agrima Anjane here from NERPO. I've seen Dr. Hove from FAO, the country representative, and of course other colleagues. If I haven't noted all of you, let me say, like they always say, all protocols observed. But this is our engagement with the media. It's just that when I see my friends, brothers and sisters, I have to duly note them. We want to engage members of the media in the form of taking our message to the public in relation to the Census of Commercial Agriculture for 2017. And one of the things that we need to say is that StatSA, and of course through the Statistician-General, is responsible for official and other statistics. Only other statistics, when it's graduated, it's actually into quality and it becomes official statistics. But the Statistician-General has a responsibility for official and other statistics. And of course, we have a lot of independence. We have to exercise such independence, because without independence, then we'd have situations where we get prevailed upon into not releasing numbers when they matter for the nation. So these numbers, we cannot be prevailed upon by members of civil society, nor any professional group, business leaders, nor government leaders. And of course, we collect this information under serious conditions of confidentiality, because information about individuals, about businesses, about any establishment should be dealt with as such. And this is done in line with the fundamental principles of official statistics. The United Nations has fundamental principles of official statistics, which we adhere to. We also have the African Charter on Statistics, which we hold on dearly to. And of course, our Statistics Act does protect us even more. Now, StatSA is going to conduct the Census of Commercial Agriculture for 2017, what we call CoCA 2017. And of course, the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Forestry, Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, will deal with or develop the Farmers Register, and with special focus on smallholder farms. So certainly, what are the objectives? The objectives is to ensure that we generate information on the size, structure, and the nature of at municipal level of commercial agriculture. We need to provide data to use for benchmarking, and of course for the reconciliation of current agricultural statistics. And furthermore, we need to provide frames for our sample surveys. You know, we conduct a lot of sample surveys in StatSA. So we have to make sure that we have latest and properly referenced frames. And of course, let us look at the history of the Census of Agriculture. The Census of Agriculture was started in 1918, and the results were published for the first time in 1919. As you will remember that the Statistics Act, or the function of statistics in South Africa, dates back to 1914. And of course, coming out of 1914, we had a lot of census activities in relation to population, and the one that followed was the Census of Agriculture. And of course, until 1980, we conducted this census every year, with an exception of those years of the war, as you would understand that the country was under a lot of instability, not even the country, the whole world. And of course, the frequency decreased over years to just 5 years. And of course, we should have, prior to 1994, the Census of Agriculture was conducted in 1993. And of course, following the dawn of democracy in 1994, we conducted the Census of Agriculture, and of course, in 2002 and 2007. We would have liked to conduct one in 2012, but there was no funding. And certainly, the current one of 2017 is conducted under the World Program, that is the World Program for the Census of Agriculture, which is driven by FAO. And of course, this started on the 1st of January 2016 and will conclude on the 31st of December 2025. So we are within a range. But this is not the only program that we have to conduct within a global program. In censuses, for example, we are currently in population and housing censuses. We are currently in the 2020 round of population and housing censuses. So the world has a process through which it takes itself through programs, especially for censuses, so that it can allow comparability amongst nations. Now, let us look at why we need to do the Census of Agriculture. One of them is the whole issue of agricultural planning. We need to deal with issues of food security. We need to deal with issues of the holding of the services of production and all sorts of whatever relates to production in terms of the gender affiliation. You cannot have only in relation to our society matters that are only handled by men. So we need to deal with gender parity in these issues. We need to deal with issues of investments and, of course, economic growth and the like. Of course, we have to deal with matters of research, investment and business development and decisions to make sure that we have this crucial data that is critical and needed for research. Agriculture and environment. We have to deal with issues that relate to the well-being of the environment. Lately, and of course, you will have seen today in media footages that we need to bring down carbon emissions to about 60%, down by 60% by 2030, and by 2050 down to zero. Certainly, agriculture does play a critical role, and not only plays a critical role, but it's also a beneficiary of the lack thereof of carbon emissions. And of course, we need to deal with matters of food security so that we can know where our food is and when, and it can be able to supply our nation and the world. Furthermore, we need to understand the work in agriculture, the work structure, the jobs that are being created in relation to also the pay and wages that occur and the structure that they follow. The role of gender, I've already spoken about that certainly we need to use this sector like any other sector, manufacturing, business, finance, or any other sector. We need to use it to drive our processes in relation to gender parity. I think nobody would deny in the nation and in the world that we need to deal and address with issues of gender parity. We need baseline data for monitoring and evaluation. We need to understand where we are going. We need to understand what issues we are dealing with. And only a nation that doesn't have enough programs would not want to have monitoring and evaluation to understand where we are going. Of course, we need to deal with the contribution of agriculture to national accounts, and of course, specifically to the system of environmental economic accounts. We need to deal with those kinds of issues. So the Census of Agriculture 2017 is properly placed within the milieu of things that we are addressing and things that we are dealing with in our society. And of course, on the day-to-day issues in relation to how we want to deal with the economy, food security, gender parity, and the like. The scope and coverage, we will deal with crop production, livestock farming, fisheries, that is including marine agriculture or aquaculture, and of course game farming as well as forestry. Now, the scope of coverage further. States say as business register, that is the BR, will be the main frame, and of course the business register is based mainly on VAT, and of course, this VAT is registered with the South African Revenue Services. We will certainly be referencing, as you know, we are going to traverse the entire space of South Africa to make sure that the geographic frame will be used, and of course, this is for purposes of improving coverage. Now, what are the data items? Now, these colleagues from Stats SA always want to write it in small letters so that I'm not able to read, but I will surprise all of us today and be able to read. That we will deal with general information, we will deal with issues of forest produce, we will deal with the issue of ocean and marine fishing, and of course, animals, that is livestock, game, poultry, and the like. We will deal with the details of purchases, and of course, we will deal with other issues in terms of the details of the principal farm manager and stroke operator. It's critical because in the event we have to go back and do work, we have to be able to know where is our reference point. If we do not collect these details and we want to go reference work, or for whatever reason, we want to understand or estimate our undercount, we will not be able to reference all this. So we need to deal with those kinds of issues. And of course, data collection and dissemination, let us look. Publicity will be conducted through local farmers associations, and of course, security firms, and of course, police stations, as well as at the farm levels themselves. We will deal with the whole issue of field workers who will visit the farms and conduct interviews using the tablets. And of course, we will deal with other matters. And at any given moment when the farming community needs to communicate with us, we will have a number, a toll-free number, through which all issues can be referenced to. And of course, our support structure will always be on standby. In the event where there is doubt about whether the people that are out there in the field are indeed Stats SA staff members, we should be able to respond even at the highest echelons of the organization. That is including myself as Statistician-General. That is how serious we deal with these matters. And it's not only on this matter alone, it's because whenever we run and conduct censuses, including sample surveys, we really follow through with all the issues. Stats SA will observe the farmers' protocol as agreed in organized agriculture. We have a very good relationship with organized agriculture, and we have protocols that we continue to agree with them, and we will certainly respect all those protocols. We count because the farmers count, and of course, on stel om dat dibure tel. Now let us look at when we are going to field. We are saying that by mid-October, we are going to begin with data collection. And mid-October is around the 15th, we should start. So if some farming communities do not see us in their area, it's because we started somewhere else. We do not have a large-scale field workforce that will be able to be at every farm on the first day. So we will be scattered throughout the country. But I yet have to rally the senior management of Stats SA that on the 15th, we are all out there in the field. You can be sure that I'll be there in the field. And I have no reason. Once I've pronounced it, I'm sure there's nobody in Stats SA who will say they will not be in field on the 15th. Because this is a very important census for us, for the nation, and of course for us as Stats SA. Whenever we conduct censuses, we make sure that we take ourselves out there from our offices out there into the field. And of course, we are saying that by April 2019, we will conclude with field collections. And of course, follow-up collections will begin. And by November, we will publish the results. Now, of course, I've already indicated that this one, that on stel om dat dibure tel, dibure maksak, and vant hele maksak, Stats SA, the statistics dienste van dinasi, sal the sam met dibure and in the field B. Thank you very much.